Today, I'm going to discuss leadership and the struggles that come with it. Welcome to HER Unscripted, episode 7. I think I've always gravitated towards higher positions in general. Like, as silly as this sounds, like the second I was hired at Forever 21, I didn't want to stay a sales associate. Within weeks, I wanted to become the cashier because that was a higher position. And then I always admired the manager. I was like, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I think I gravitate towards higher positions at a very young age. I didn't actually have a real plan of where I wanted to truly end up because I didn't get like a professional degree. I mean, I got degrees in administration and business, both my bachelor's and master's, but it wasn't like, oh, this is your position. It was, you have to find your own path. And then when I worked at the doctor's office, I don't want to say like I didn't do good with like people telling me what to do, but I knew I was either as capable as the people that were telling me what to do or more capable. Maybe that sounds a little bit on the cocky side, but I just, not that it didn't, it's not like superiority, but maybe the control factor. I don't know. But I knew there was always something higher I was working towards, and I wanted to be the highest. And it was it wasn't my goal to own my business. I grew up around entrepreneurs and my dad owning his own business and everyone around me that did. So that was like something I was very familiar with. But I just wanted the highest position. Like I wanted to manage the doctor's office, and then I wanted to manage their surgical center. And then my end goal was to become the CEO of a hospital. And I I was so confident that I could do it, even though I was so young. Like I remember when the manager was terminated in the doctor's office, I think I was like 24, 25, and I sat the doctors down and said, okay, I want that position. Like, what do I need to do to get that position? I know I'm ready. I mean, thank God they said no when I was 24 because I did need to build some skill sets, and I did. And then when it was time, I did get the position. So it wasn't hard for me to establish a leadership role with my current position with Forever Young and owning my business and expanding. I think it came very natural to me. I knew I could do it. I knew I was capable of training people. I think as I got bigger, I just needed to work on delegating, and it's something that I still work on constantly. And I think once I perfect that practice, I'll be able to expand even more. Leadership is a very tricky place to be. You really have to learn to study the people around you to, shut down your own emotions and your own personal life and experiences, because that energy is just drops on the people around you. And it's not about you, it's about everyone else around you. And that's probably the most difficult part of leadership. And I mean, I slowly got to where I am. Luckily, it wasn't all at once. So my team started a team of like 3 of us, and then it became 5. And then, you know, slowly got busier and bigger. And, through experience, you become stronger and more skilled. And then my second office came around. So there was an extra 5 employees there. And then that grew even to like 8 employees. And then now we have our third location. And hello to another 6 personalities, and learning to deal with so many different personalities is the most important part, and connecting with them. I'm naturally a very nurturing person, so I focus a lot on nurturing my team. Sometimes I might nurture a little too much, and I've seen that happen with certain experiences in the office, but it's just the way I operate. And, you have to make sure they're doing good for you to do good. And if they're not okay, your business is not okay. So that's something that you have to learn right off the bat. It truly isn't about your state of mind, it's about theirs. And then you take care of yours after, or before. So I always say, like, you could have like a tornado going on at home and then keep dealing with that tornado until you're about to walk into the office, and then that shuts down and you walk in like you want and greet everyone the way you want them to greet your patients and your customers. And there's just not too much thinking about yourself, which, it sucks at times. I think that's one of the harder parts, but with time, you learn how to compartmentalize and strategize on how to handle yourself and how you function your best to be able to lead your team in the best way possible. So if it means waking up an hour too early to have your cup of coffee in silence and journal or work out or do whatever you need to do, then that's what you do. Because no one truly cares how you're doing at the end of the day. And I know that sounds so sad. And so I know they care about me as a person, but you're there to solve everyone's problems. You're there to take over the front desk if the front desk person's not feeling well. You're there to encourage your injector on upselling and treating patients or keeping them motivated if they didn't get the IV stick right away, or, so it's you matter later, but in terms of on the big scale of things, you kind of don't. So you have to remember that. So I think selfish people aren't great leaders. Unless you know how to compartmentalize your selfishness. Obviously, so many hardships happen other than your personal life and pretending that's not happening, but hardships in the office. For example, financial, right? Financial, speak to any business owner. That's going to be the first thing on, their mind is financial. How am I going to pay? Do I have enough money to pay payroll in the morning? I can't tell you how many times I didn't have enough money. Other than like my COVID experience, where when I was working at my other job, I kept my corporate job for a year and tried to run Forever Young during that year at the same time. And I was pregnant. That was the craziest part, I think. But everything shut down. But if you had a corporate job, you technically were still getting paid because a lot of work from home and stuff like that. So that was great. But my direct deposit would go in and then I transfer like 90% of it to payroll so I could afford paying my employees. And my personal savings went under. Forever Young's saving, cash flow was under. That was one of the biggest financial hardships I had. And then even after COVID, when things are flowing, like one of my offices, what payroll would go under happened too often that our payroll company required a $30,000 deposit for them to hold for a minimum of a year because they didn't trust my cash flow. You don't sleep at night when things like that happen, because guess what? You still have credit cards to pay. You still have bonuses to pay. You still have electricity to pay and rent and product, and all of that continues going on whether you have the cash flow or not, right? So you have to figure it out. I think let's say my cortisol levels are naturally high, partially from that, right? So that's just not fun. It's just high stress, right? So you're sitting at dinner with your friends and yeah, you're laughing at the joke, but I'm also thinking about how to operate and how to pay bills. And I'm sitting with my family at, Thanksgiving dinner because we're closed that day. And I'm wondering how much we could have made that day if patients would have possibly came in to, you know, get services done. So your mind is always, you're in this problem solving mode 24/7. And that's other than the cash flow that you're just constantly worried about. That's terrifying always. And then, hoping everyone's happy enough to show up the next day to work. I'm in a position where there's licensed professionals that need to show up for us to service patients. If that licensed professional doesn't want to come in, they don't come in technically. If they don't come in, we don't see patients. There is no revenue. So there's a lot of reliance on other people, and you learn people are not necessarily reliable at all times. No one's going to be as reliable as you. And I'm not a licensed professional. I can't service the patients if someone doesn't show up. I wish I can. There was a point in my life, like 2-3 years ago, I was like, should I go back to school and become a physician's assistant, or physician's associate is what they're called now, or a nurse practitioner, or a medical esthetician? What can I do to guarantee if someone doesn't show up, I can perform their job? That's where my head was. I mean, thankfully I didn't do that, because I'm honestly made to run the business, just the way I function. And if you're working in your business, you're not working on your business. And during that time that I was like thinking about problem solving, that really stuck with me, that, okay, what am I going to become an employee at my business, which I was for 5 years as a wellness specialist. I couldn't operate and work on my business. So, and that was obviously due to turnover with employees, right? My licensed professionals, I lost one and then had to hire a new person. And then you're talking about training and all that kind of stuff. So it's terrifying to know that someone has so much control over your business, which in our industry, talk to anyone that owns a med spa, these injectors have too much power over us. I mean, I'm in a position in my life where if someone leaves, I'm not as impacted as I once was, but you lose sleep over that, right? And injectors realize at one point they have so much power, and that's why so many of them started opening their own like suites, but they also realize that it sucks owning your own business financially, and not everyone's made to be an owner. You'll make so much more money if you're a skilled professional and you're an employee versus an owner. And I think people can't comprehend that, because people think total revenue and don't realize the expenses of the total revenue. Yes, our revenue are hundreds of thousands of dollars. My expenses are also hundreds of thousands of dollars. So even my team, sometimes I feel like when we're setting goals, some of them don't understand that, oh, if 200K is our revenue goal, that's not money in my pocket. To pay everyone and to operate takes a lot of financial impact. And it's really hard to not be viewed as like this person that has so much money, because you're producing. The more you produce, the more expensive it is to operate. And that's a key thing to remember. There were times where, I mentioned a few episodes ago about an employee. I mean, I don't care. She was an esthetician who like disappeared, just texted me, hey, I'm not coming in anymore. And she was my only esthetician. And it was like death in my life. Like I just literally experienced a death. Best thing that ever happened to me, because I got the best employee to replace her. But that happened with an injector. I was actually, sometimes when you're winning, people, gosh, this sounds a little conceited maybe, but when you're winning, Ugh, I hate this sentence, like hate on you. I hate that concept because I don't think anyone really hates on me. It feels like it sounds immature, but when you're succeeding, there are people that aren't going to necessarily wish you the best. That sounds better. And there's this one particular person. If I could scream her name out loud, I would, but I don't want to be that petty. She wishes ill upon anyone in our business that's succeeding. It's so weird because, girl, you could win too. There's room for everyone to win. She wishes such illness upon everyone that she reached out to employees of mine who really wanted to become better injectors or more liked injectors in the business, not by their patients, by their peers, which is also weird to me because I've never been that kind of person. Reached out to her, got her to quit her job. So resign. Okay, no big deal. Things happen. I'm hiring this highly skilled injector who's about to sign her contract, who meets with this person that's about to leave. They all talk together and everyone disappears on me. And I have no injector, no nurse practitioner. Again, everything happens for a reason. I have the best team right now, so I don't care. But at the moment, I was like, crap, that's it. I'm screwed. Like, I can't keep up with this girl that's bad mouthing me, reaching out to employees and creating this fake narrative to get people not to work for me. I started having a bad reputation as an employer. Now, if you actually ever worked for me, I spoil the hell out of my employees to a fault at times. But because I really care about a good environment for my staff, I really care about my staff. When you become under Dina's wing, you're like set for life. And they know that, but I genuinely like doing that. It's my nurturing personality. I genuinely love taking care of people. Like when I'm in the office, I have a to-do list all the time, but I never get through it because half the time I'm stopping by each person trying to see what they need, what we can do, what improvements we can create together. So those were really hard times. It's like loss of staff that I thought were it, but it always ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me because I get such better people after. So now I'm like numb for losing people in the office because I know God has a better plan. And just things keep going. I don't have time to sit there and cry about anything or to feel too much. Guess what? Whether I feel okay, sad, not motivated, I still have to open the shop the next morning and I still have to have enough cash flow to pay my current employees. So, these scenarios can't impact me too much. Going back to being the leader, you can't be too selfish. I think another really hard part is when you're going through personal stuff and when the personal stuff starts winning over you and you never want anyone to know that you're struggling. And then also you don't want people in your personal business because for me, I hate talking about things, especially if I'm going through it. I'll talk about it with who I need to talk about it. But the more I talk about heavy topics, the heavier it sits on my shoulders. And sometimes if I'm coming to work, I want to escape certain situations. So it helps. Maybe I do it to an unhealthy level. But like, it's really hard to be crying on your way to work and then pulling up to your office and fixing your makeup and having a face that swells up every time I cry. And then your front desk looking at you and knowing exactly what you were doing in your car. So there's only so much you could cover up, but it's really hard. You're going through personal stuff, you know, with kids, with relationships, with family and losses and just feeling defeated. I think feeling defeated is the hardest thing, whether it's personal defeat or business defeat. That's the worst thing to let your staff and your team to feel. So to feel defeated and walk in is really, really hard. And there's times that I had to walk out and, I would have an emotional breakdown and then walk back in, and then they could tell, but they'll do this thing like, "Can I hug you?" And like I joke around like, "No, you can't. Don't hug me. Don't touch me." I say it as a joke, but if I'm emotional, don't freaking hug me or touch me because I'm gonna cry. So yeah, like I try to sound mean, like, don't touch me, don't hug me. It's really because I'm gonna cry if you touch me. So I'd rather no human touch and to like, get back to like business Dina. Um, but it's not because I'm mean, I swear. Um, and it's funny, there's a reputation that I don't like hugs. I actually like hugs, but if I'm stressed or unhappy, yeah, I don't want to hug. I want, a coffee, and I want to be wired, and I want to solve my problems. Um, and it's just hard. It's hard to balance because you're not taking care of yourself, especially like as a mom and running a business. Okay. So you're selfless at home. You had your child have a complete meltdown, and then you have to show up and have like this energy. And then you leave and you're in mom mode. Okay, where's Dina mode? Where's like catering to Dina and unless that's scheduled, it doesn't happen. I mean, even before filming this, like I asked my sister to watch Zane, and she was thrilled, which is really cool that I have that, right? But Zane didn't want to be away from me. He was off of school yesterday, so he tends to get extra attached when he's off of school. And he was like crying, not wanting me to walk out. Like my heart was broken. I was like, I don't need to freaking film anything. I don't need to do anything. I just want to sit with my son and I want to hug him and comfort him. I know he's perfectly fine. Part of it's an act. He's like, he has full control over me and he senses the weakness in me. But it breaks me, it tears me up. And then I told myself, oh, I'm going to drop him off and I'm going to do this. And then after this, I'm going to get some work done. And after I get work done, I'm going to work out. I'm probably not going to get to the workout, which is the self-care part, because I'm going to feel guilty and go pick him up. So yeah, that's the hardships of building a team, running the show, and wanting to grow, right? Like it's the growth factor that you're trying to get to and continue, because if you don't maintain a certain level of work ethic and pouring into everyone else's cup, then you're not going to be able to grow this team that you want to grow. So I know I keep saying that everyone that's left, there's a blessing that comes after them. I actually truly believe that. I don't want anyone to think that I'm like, it's like a threat in any way. If any of my staff watches this, I love my staff. I don't have anyone on my team at the moment that I want out. I surround myself with very high value people, and I feel it the second I walk into all my offices right now.